Hello everyone and welcome to the WIN event. It is so good to see all of you join the session today to learn a little bit more about alliances and the New Zealand Defence Force Alliance in particular. I feel that this session is quite nicely timed in that, not only have alliances become a popular terminology, it has also become quite a popular form of delivering increasingly complex and large infrastructure projects here in New Zealand. So it's a good time to be having these discussions. So thanks a lot for coming along and joining the session today. My name is Krisha Daram. I am an Auckland WIN Committee member and a manager in the infrastructure advisory team at EY. I also happen to be a very proud member of the New Zealand Defence Force Alliance. And today I'm super excited to host and bring this event to you all. Alongside me, I've got three wonderful guest speakers here today. So I will introduce and welcome you to the speakers. I'll introduce them in the order in which they'll be presenting today. So first up is Phil Guernsey. Phil is the Alliance Portfolio Manager. Hi, Phil. Phil is also on the New Zealand Infrastructure Board as well. So some of you might already be quite familiar with him. So hello, Phil, and welcome. Next up is Patrick Kelly. Patrick is a director in the Infrastructure Advisory team at EY and is the Deputy Alliance Portfolio Manager. And then last but not the least, we have Kerry Bain. Kerry is the Senior Project Director at Becker and is involved in a couple of projects in the Alliance, so like the Estate Regeneration Program as well as the Housing Program. So a lot of great speakers here today who will be taking us through some good content to give us a bit of a flavour on what this Alliance thing is all about. So without further ado, a huge and warm welcome to Phil, Patrick and Kerry. Thanks for coming along and thanks for making the time today. Before I hand over to Phil, I will go through some minor housekeeping items. So just to remind everyone that this session will be wish to kind of rewatch it later, or if for some reason you need to kind of head out. Also a reminder that we have a Q&A session later today, so please pop in any questions you might have as part of the Q&A function that you might see on your screen. And a huge thank you to those of you who sent through questions in advance of the session as well. I will endeavour to go through as many as possible today. And yeah, that's it from me in terms of housekeeping. So I will hand the baton over to you, Phil.
Kia ora koutou. Thanks, Krisha, for the introductions. Nā mai, hello mai, everyone. Just wanted to start this presentation by setting the scene. So if we could have the first slide, please. So our estate and infrastructure portfolio is very large and complex. It's that complexity that probably makes us pretty unique in the New Zealand setting. The Defence Estate includes office buildings, houses, museums, recruiting offices, wharves, hospitality facilities, workshops, and you can see on the diagram that it just about contains everything except for a railway line, and we used to contain those as well. The estate is one of the largest holdings for the Crown, encompassing 81,000 hectares across 9 camps and bases and several large training areas and regional facilities and major centres. The Wairau military training area in the middle of the North Island is the size of Singapore. For the Defence Force, the Defence Estate is a strategic asset. It provides us the operational capability for training, working and living required by 14,000 personnel to do their jobs in keeping New Zealand safe and secure. Much of the Defence Estate infrastructure was built before World War II and during World War II, and therefore it's aged, degraded, and increasing compliance challenges, including meeting seismic strengthening and asbestos regulation requirements. It's well documented, therefore, that Defence Estate infrastructure is generally run down and degraded. This dilapidation of the estate is particularly evident in the living and training environments and with our network utilities. So in summary, there are many challenges that we need to overcome, and in particular, the assets are no longer fit for purpose and due to a mix of underinvestment, insufficient asset management capability or coordination of capital projects. There are increasing compliance standards resulting in a risk of infrastructure not meeting minimum health, environmental or government regulations and standards. And we're also not looking towards our stewardship improvements, such as around 3 waters reform, resource management, climate change, and even the Green Star building ratings requirements. So unless remedial action is taken, there's a real risk that our estate will become increasingly unfit for purpose and endanger our people. Investment is required now to modernise and regenerate the estate to deliver on the requirement for a combat-capable military force. If we're to meet these requirements, a fundamental change is required in the way we deal with it. And this has led us to the Defence Estate Regeneration Programme, which was approved by the government in April 2016 out to 2030, and has an indicative funding envelope of 2.1 billion, but is still subject to annual budget processes. We also have an indicative funding envelope over the same time of around 2.5 billion for operating, and that's in terms of maintaining and looking after our people. The plan sets out the detailed works and investment required to sustain and redevelop the estate and meet the requirements of a modern future force. And on an annual basis, like local authorities, we publish our capital intentions and an implementation plan. The Defence Estate and Infrastructure Organisation, DEI, as we're known internally, everything in NZDF turns into a three-letter acronym. So DEI is responsible for setting the strategic direction, delivering new infrastructure, maintaining existing, providing asset and environmental stewardship, and reporting on the performance of their estate. DEI is currently 176 staff, challenged with a role equivalent to a medium-sized local authority, responsible for 9 town centres, 3 airports, a port, and over 65,000 hectares of what you could say would be regional parks. We simply just don't have the capacity and capability in-house to do the job without help. And as such, the DERP, Defence Estate Regeneration Programme, identifies the need for a strategic partnership to help us. Next slide, please. So in November 2020, to support the regeneration of our estate, DEI formed a professional services alliance with Becker and EY. The scope of the services that we have developed through the alliance is extensive and includes management functions, including performance, risk, health and safety and commercial and resourcing, maturity functions, processing business cases, process improvements, change management and practice maturity. And then delivery functions, an extensive range of engineering, design, construction, management, planning and related outputs. So it's through the alliance that we provide a greater capacity in terms of flexibility to do the work we're required. It enables us to accelerate project and program approval with greater uniformity. It gives us informed and improved processes, including financial accuracy, application of learned lessons, improved reporting and management outcomes. We also have greater consistency of our services. Knowing who our trusted partners are has led us to improve in our knowledge base and consistent design and risk consolidation. And finally, the cost benefit through improved cost certainty, greater focus on whole of life outcomes, and reduced procurement times and cost has become with sharing the risk with someone else. Next slide, please. So why choose an alliance? Well, there are a whole heap of reasons, but for NZDF, we proposed an alliance approach to manage our future estate. We specifically sought to engage a long-term partnership to provide the expertise and capacity to deliver the required outcomes for the management of the estate and for what was the hurdle of the Defence Estate Regeneration Programme. We needed to build capacity, expertise in response to changes to develop and manage our estate. I'd now like to hand over to Patrick, who's going to take you through the rest of the slides.
So good afternoon, everybody. Thanks, Phil. So look, Phil just touched on the reasons for why DEI chose an alliance. So I'm going to cover some of the general reasons for choosing an alliance, and look, there is a number of them. First one, if the scope of the project is unclear. So the way an alliance is set up, it enables the participants to develop the scope together. Your alliance model allows you to flex. You can add scope, you can remove scope. But also additionally, you can add additional resource and different expertise depending on the requirements. So again, it's well able to flex to a changing scope as you go through the life cycle. You could have political pressures that are impacting on the project. So again, that could lead to uncertain scope. You could require faster timeframes, slower timeframes. And again, it's just all about being able to flex to those requirements. Another one is the community and stakeholder interests must be met. And again, with an alliance, it allows you to probably take that more integrated approach or an innovative approach to engaging with your community or stakeholders. Many times the owner can be, maybe restricted in their approach, or they could have historic relationships that require a reset. So I think by forming that more alliance approach, it allows for more sort of flexibility in how you do that. Again, look at unclear or changing government requirements must be made. Again, very similar to the political. If you've got uncertain scope or timeframes. And then looking at that, if you have overly optimistic timeframes, again, with your alliance, it offers that sort of best chance of optimizing processes to address complex interrelated issues. You could have, let's say, for statutory, budgetary, program, or any other constraints. Or also it just allows that sort of innovative solutions, the ability to challenge your traditional approach to how things are done. Increased capacity enables those timeframes to be achieved, or alternative solutions to be proposed. And then final one is just around the owner could have resource constraints. And by bringing in those alliance partners, you can add so much more capacity and different capabilities. And if you look at this DI alliance, in addition to the 180 people from DI, we probably have about 600 people from the non-owner participants that can supplement that resource. And it just gives the ability to reach back to many more people across all the organizations. So I'll just move on to the next slide. Brilliant. So what does an alliance look like? So the definition of alliance, it's an establishment of a virtual organization to manage the relationships between the parties that aims to remove barriers, encourage maximum contribution, and allow all parties to achieve success. I think probably the most important one there is it's really that removal of barriers between a traditional contract, where you probably have a lot more of that sort of client consultant or client contractor relationship. It allows people really leave their hat at the door from the whole organization and operate collaboratively as one team of peers. And so as the diagram is shown there, you generally have your owner participant, who's traditionally your client, and then your non-owner participants. So again, they could be your consultants, your contractor, and those different private sector companies. And it's all really about coming together as one alliance team. Some of the differences, I guess, between a more traditional contract and an alliance. Under a traditional form of contract, and usually don't have you transferring the risk, or each party has or must fulfill its own separate and individual obligations. And whereas under alliance, it's a lot about sharing and jointly managing the risk. Nearly all obligations are collective, and preferably all risks are shared. And this is all held together under your PA or your project or program portfolio alliance agreement. The alliance itself, it's set up, and you generally have an alliance board. All alliance participants are represented on that. And the key thing is it's unanimous decision making. So they really focus on governance, but decisions only get made when all participants are in agreement. Setting out in that, if your alliance management team, it's headed by your alliance manager, and they really focus on the day-to-day management of the alliance. So delivering your scope, managing your risks, managing your finances, resourcing, and such issues as that. And then the wider alliance teams, that's everybody, captures everybody in the alliance. And that's really the people who deliver the project or alliance objectives. Look, really key fundamental thing to alliance is the culture that's developed. And that's all underpinned by an alliance charter. So for our DEI alliance, I'll just quickly run through our sort of specific charter, but again, these will be unique to all different alliances. So your purpose of the alliance charter is to capture really the essence of the alliance, provides a guide for everyone involved. It signposts the direction of the alliance, and it aligns new participants with the objectives and to what the alliance is setting out to achieve. Your charter usually consists of a mission statement, and then the values and associated behaviors and the outcomes you're looking to achieve. So looking at our specific DI alliance, our mission statement is together building the future for our people. And that really sort of touches, I guess, at, it's the service women and men of the New Zealand Defence Force, looking at the estate, that's where they live, they work, they play. And so building that strong future for them, but also it's relevant to all the alliance participants, and really about how are we developing the sort of skill sets of all those people moving forward as well. Our values and the associated behaviours that go with it. And so we have four key values: unity, accountability, continual growth, and guardianship. So unity is all about us collaborating as one diverse, inclusive, and respectful team. Accountability is all about us being individually and collectively responsible for success. Our continued growth is that we are curious, adaptable, and encouraged to grow. And our guardianship is really about enhancing and protecting, maintaining and sustaining the Crown estate. Then I'll quickly touch on is just the importance of behaviours in an alliance as well. So you'll hear a lot of above the line behaviours and below the line. And so it's really about keeping that above the line. It's about the we will, we shall, and really avoiding that sort of finger pointing or you will do something that's certainly below the line. It's all really about leaving your hat at the door. So whether you come from the owner participant or one of the non-owners, you're leaving that homework hat at the door, and it's really about what's best for the alliance and operating in that very collaborative manner. And so into alliance principles, and again, these really are you've a number of parties coming together, so the principles that underpin that sort of working as one big team are really important. And you'll see a lot of crossover between some of these principles. And probably the other thing for me is you can use these in the non-alliance situation, a different model as well. But getting into them, the big one is at the top, that all participants win or lose depending on the outcomes actually achieved. And that's really fundamental, and it gives assurance to all parties. There's no benefit to one party trying to take a win-lose approach. It's all about, we all win together. So if the owner is winning, the non-owner participants are winning. If the owner is losing, the non-owner participants are losing. And the commercials are set up in such a way that really drives that outcome through key result areas, and they're linked to performance payments, pain gain model as well. So what it really does is when everybody's winning, you're getting better outcomes delivered, and you're getting better commercial outcomes as well. So next one is about it's a peer relationship where all participants have an equal say. The one I touched on earlier about it's joint decision making at a board level, and where all participants agree, really across all of the alliance participants. It's having that, everybody having an equal say, but also across role and rank as well is really important. Collective responsibility for performance with an equitable sharing of risk and reward. So that's really key. There's no the consultants going, that issue is the client's responsibility, or a client saying, what are you going to do to improve performance? It's all done collectively. And then in that sort of risk reward space, that's where you get that pain gain. So again, if you have a sort of underrun on the overall sort of target outturn cost, all parties can share in that underrun. And conversely, if you get an overrun, then all parties share in the overrun as well. So it's all about that sort of shared risk. Also, your alliance guarantees your full access to best-in-class resources from all of the participants. Alliances are all about high performance and using the best people. And often you'll have a clause in your alliance agreement where you'll generally get your chief execs or the head of each of the participants to commit that they will provide their best people for the alliance. Get a strong focus on innovative thinking with a commitment to achieving outstanding results. And again, that's your outcomes are always your outcomes focused. So it's not about the process. You're doing something because that's how it's always been done. You're really encouraged to improve your just efficiency of how stuff is done, but also been innovative, really achieves those outstanding results against your key result areas, and that can often result in that gain situation or an underrun. You've got clear responsibilities within a no blame culture. Again, probably really key when you're closing your agreement is there's a no sue provision between all the participants. But probably on that day to day, it means you don't get that finger pointing. If an issue, something arises, the focus is on resolving the issues collectively and then learning from it, and really avoid trying to finger point or those sort of below the line behaviors, telling people that they're responsible. Another key one is that open, straight and honest communication between all participants. That can be a challenge to really get that going, but there's massive rewards in it. It enables the difficult conversations to take place, and you create an environment of constructive feedback, which is really good. And finally, all transactions are fully open book. So your different rates, they're audited. the non-owner participants, their rates are also based on their sort of standard profits. So you're guaranteed your standard profit. Let's say all fully open book. So again, it just certainly allows all that openness amongst the participants. So just jumping on to the next slide, please, Paige. So I'm just quickly going to run through maybe some of the examples of different alliances we've had in New Zealand. I'm sure there's people on the call here who've been on some of these alliances, so that's great. If there are people on the call, look, I haven't managed to mention all the alliances, so certainly my apologies if there's anybody on the call who have been on an alliance and it isn't on that list. What I probably want to say here is alliances in New Zealand, maybe originally they were sort of construction single projects, a number of them in the transport space, and that's really developed over the years. It's really branched out into many different sectors in transport. So obviously we've our defence one here, you get in the water space, housing, marine, and I'm sure there are a number of others that I haven't listed. Also moving on from that construction. So you're getting alliances that are focused on operations and maintenance, but also professional services, and certainly the popularity of them have grown over the last couple of years. And also moving on from that sort of single project alliance space to alliances that cover whole programs, and our DEI alliance one, which covers a whole portfolio. So look, they really can be used in so many different circumstances. I'm looking just quickly going to run through where it has been used on a number of complex programs in New Zealand. So you have the Link Alliance, which is delivering the main stations and tunnels for Auckland to Rail Link. You had the Skirt Alliance, which is about rebuilding Christchurch horizontal infrastructure following the 2011 earthquakes. That was a $2.2 billion program and delivered over 700 projects over 5.5 years. And the Kangaora Alliances, Te Aranga, apologies for my pronunciation, which is delivering homes in Eastern Parirua, and also the $750 million Civil Works Alliance in Peritahi in Auckland. And there's the Te Tupu Ngā Tahi Support and Growth Alliance, which is investigating, planning and protecting land needed for transport network to support Auckland's population growth over the next 30 years. And you've had the Clear Harbour Alliance, which was all about separating stormwater and wastewater. In the transport space, there's been a number from construction ones such as Waterview and Tunnel and Big Park Tunnel Alliance, through to more sort of operation maintenance ones like the Auckland Motorway Alliance. And then in the professional services space, the likes of Puhoi to Walkrick and the East-West Link. And there'll be a whole bunch of others as well in the transport space that I've mentioned. Safe Roads Alliance is another one. And then finally, we've got the Wynyard Edge Alliance, which designed and constructed the infrastructure to support last year's America's Cup. I will now hand over to Kerry, who's going to talk through some of the benefits of alliances. Thank you, Paige, for all your help.
Thanks, Patrick. Wow, it's going to be a hard ask for me to keep up with both Phil and Patrick. So there's been some awesome information shared there. So we've heard what an alliance is. So what are some of the benefits? And particularly, I'm going to bring in some of the benefits that we have realised on the DEI Alliance. I'm not going to read through this slide. There's a lot of words on it. So I'm sure you're all quite capable of doing that. So I'll leave you to do it. I'll just talk in the background. So Patrick mentioned about culture, and it's really important that the culture is set right from the beginning. And we talk about a no blame culture, which is critical to any alliance. One of the benefits, again, is the opportunities for sharing and for knowledge transfer and learning off each other. And this goes across all participants in any alliance. And there's a real push in this particular one for us to be doing that. And of course, that pushes through into the individuals and becomes a really important growth feature for all the people that are involved on the alliance. The culture takes a lot of upfront and ongoing effort. It's not something that necessarily comes easy to all of us. And so it is important to have coaches in an alliance and to set the framework for what the culture needs to be. And it's important to make sure that anyone that comes into the Alliance after you've started also gets an understanding of that. We're it's very easy to onboard people at the beginning, and then the others are expected to pick up the pace as they join. But it's really important that those key messages are pushed through to everybody as they join the teams. As Patrick's also mentioned, good culture and Alliance mean there's no competition or patch protection between participants. That's unusual for most of us, and you absolutely have to leave your hat at the door. So when people say, who do you belong to? You belong to the Alliance, not to the person that pays your wages. In the case of the DEI Alliance and integration of teams, we've got multiple design teams, and now I'm going to drop back into non-Alliance language. And those design teams are made up from Becca and from GHD, who are our partner in this work. And we're collaborating together, sharing resources, learnings, and complementing technical disciplines in order to deliver on our projects. The Alliance has also provided, in the case of project managers, to the individual camps and bases, and we are working alongside our client-side PMs that are part of the Defence or DEI teams. And we've managed to complement the resource there, as well as enabling an upskilling exercise to take place with those people. We have a fully integrated owner and non-owner team approach to developing a future operating model. We have business improvements across both process and function, including business case development and improvements in procurement, risk, information management, and communications. And again, they're across every participant in this Alliance. The last noted benefit on this slide is flexibility and delivery. And again, Patrick has stolen a little bit of my thunder on this. But the benefits of Alliances are the ability to add and remove programs of work and to flex and downscale on people. So this is part of the game, and everybody acknowledges that. So that's quite hard when it comes to planning, but it's all part of the process. So we just have to move with it and flex with that. Next slide, please. So some examples of benefits from this Alliance. I've already mentioned the mixing of teams and the knowledge transfer. By making a conscious decision in the Alliance to mix it up, to make sure that not one participant is doing one part of the delivery, we're also promoting diversity. Diversity for us is about diversity of thought, and by mixing teams and background and technical training, we're also developing the upskilling across many people and developing a safe environment for this to happen. It's really important that a safe environment is established within an Alliance, otherwise it will impact on behaviours, and you will get the above the line, below the line behaviours kicking in. We've developed on the course of this Alliance some really smart business metric measuring and reporting in a number of tools that have been introduced to DEI and that we are using and will be developing on as we go forward. You have to constantly, in an Alliance, you look for opportunities for people to learn and grow. And as part of this process, you've got to recognise the time also for rotation to keep teams fresh and hungry. We very easily slip into having someone that we're very comfortable with in a position or in a particular location, but it is best for that individual that we adopt a rotation policy, and we have that alive and kicking in this Alliance already. I'm going to share with you an example of one of our greatest opportunities for growth. And this photo here is a photo of Siobhan Lenihan. She's a geotech engineer. Some of you know that are on the call will be familiar with her. And she has approximately 5 years of experience. We went to the business asking for somebody to relocate to Wairau. And in March of this year, she put her hand up and volunteered to relocate to Wairau and live and work inside the wire. During that time, her personal growth has seen her develop her geotech skills. She's working on the Central Plateau, so there's plenty of geotech issues and good ground formations, etc., for her to dig into. But she's also widened her experience into project management. She's run a number of projects, both with our alliance teams and on site with Defence and Army teams. And she's currently coordinating and undertaking inspections of property for Healthy Homes projects that we have running. Siobhan adopted the idea of what's the worst that can happen. I'm a great believer in that saying, and that prompted her to jump at the chance to do her own tour of duty on her own in Wairau. As I mentioned before about rotation, we have told her that we are rotating her out of Wairau in March. And that's been packaged to her as a growth for her, and she's fully on board, as is the business. So that's now our job to fill her job in Wairau. Examples of innovation and effective solutions have been made in the introduction of carbon accounting in our cost estimates, and also in the way that we've been embracing BIM on all our projects, and this has come through particularly in our design phases. So the Alliance has completed a number of design guidelines as well, and this is across accommodation, messing and dining, modernisation standards, asset management practice, estate and sustainability infrastructure guidelines, and we've integrated this across all our teams on a daily basis. We've also initiated a cost manual, and that is being used for both current and has been fashioned in such a way that it will be good for future projects and will be invaluable for the way forward on budgeting purposes. Next slide, please. So, no one said this is going to be easy. In any alliance, you need to allow time to set up, and it's just the same as if you were setting up a new business or an operation. You need to get the structure in place and the reporting, etc. We are now a year into this alliance, and whilst we've made really good progress, we have to be ready to tweak those in order to get better outcomes. It's all about improving what you did yesterday, ready for tomorrow. We have a reset workshop already in place for the new year, and the vision of that is to take the learnings that we have from the last 12 months and develop these going forward. Behaviours, as I mentioned earlier, alliance agreements are all about being in it together, and so no room for blame. Adopting above the line mantra is important. And this behaviour change is really hard. If you think about your daily activity, if you watch the news at night, how much of the news is negative? And so you have to turn that on its head and make sure that everything that you are communicating is positive. Integrating teams, I've mentioned before, this means knowing where people come from is irrelevant. And so again, leaving the hat at the door, everyone's an alliance. There is no client, we are an alliance. There is no defence, there's no EY. In the case of the alliance and in the case of defence personnel, sometimes leaving the uniform at the door is a little hard. Access and security on this particular alliance was harder than others that I have been involved in. The sheer number of security applications by the Alliance team during onboarding, I think, was underestimated. We have now quite a structured onboarding process. So again, a lesson learnt on how we bring people on board into the Alliance and how we manage the very strict defence security protocols that are in place. We just have to work with them. There's no point in trying to get around them. COVID in this particular year has been very difficult and something obviously that we are still grappling with. And so the Alliance, again, a great principle, we've had to flex around that and work out ways of delivering. So the COVID has added extra complexity around mobility, about timing of site visits, and restrictions of multiple site visits that are within a close proximity during a close amount of time. If we were to transmit this virus to any camp or base, or multiple camps or bases, this could have a profound impact on the defence capability, and that needs to be core to our thinking. Resourcing. So from a resourcing aspect, I'm sure everyone on this call agrees that this is an issue for everybody. The right person for the job is already busy. So timely and effective communication is needed on resourcing pretty much all of the time. It is a moving feast and something which in this environment is made especially different by the fact that we have short numbers of resources and everyone is busy. This is one of the hardest issues to solve, but it's also one of the key aspects of having an alliance. With regards to stakeholders, we have to work with ongoing defence operations. That's number one. And some of the people that are involved in projects have been deployed onto MIQ sites. And in normal instances, this could mean overseas exercises. So we just have to work around this. This is just part of the game with this particular alliance. We've got to stay one step ahead of personnel changes and availability. Good communication, it's what it comes down to in most instances. So what have we achieved? Phil, I'd like to pass the baton. Thank you.
Thanks, Kerry. Right, I'll bring this home for everyone. So with the Alliance, we're converting our effort into results. The DEI Alliance has reduced the risk associated with such a scale and uncertainty of pace with regenerating our estate. The effort that Kerry has highlighted and what Patrick has presented in terms of the process of an alliance has reduced our risks and created a direct quantifiable effect. And that's particularly illustrated in the pricing of work. When we've directly compared our consultancy services in the market with time-bound activities, we are priced 10% below the market. And we're able to scope activities at 15% below market rates. So this is an equivalent saving on the first Alliance work package of about $8 to $10 million, which is a fantastic outcome from an effort where we weren't going into it looking at cost savings as our primary driver. What we were looking at is accelerating our renewal, and we've been able to achieve that as well, moving our projects through to design gate 1 on an average of 3 weeks quicker under the Alliance. The Alliance has also provided dedicated project management and systems support for achieving a number of projects and planned maintenance. An example of that's in our Healthy Homes compliance requirements, as well as setting us up to deliver and meet our Healthy Homes requirements for 1,800 houses over the next 2 years. We've been able to call on the strengths of our partners in particular areas, and one of those is in our iwi partnership framework and building our capacity from the experience of our own partners in that area. It's also been my personal experience that we've been able to have a significant reduction in the time and expenses associated with procurement. For example, in the first 9 months of our Alliance, we had 35 scope additions for professional services. And we were able to achieve this within an ease of days, as opposed to the 3 to 6 week processes of going out to the market. And for the second work package, we've brought together the entire work package and processed it within 2 months for a small cost of around $400K for over a $70 million fee. In the future, we'll be leveraging our key result areas and key performance indicators to track performance against outcomes. And this is integral into our approach of reporting and illustrating the benefits and value of our Alliance. Reflecting the true value and money achieved from the Alliance will not always be measured quantitatively, and the true value of our Alliance will be a fit for purpose estate with an improved living and working conditions for the people that use it. Let me conclude by stating that the benefits of our Alliance, and it's confirmed for us that it's the right approach. It's provided us capacity to flex up and down annually with no standing army, It's given us faster delivery of our business cases and quicker to market for construction. It's reduced in procurement time and resource. It's given us greater confidence and cost certainty. It's lifted the capability within our own people and across also our partners. It's given us tighter budget control with detailed planning. We've shared our risk and there's no liability for profit loss. We have an open book and an externally audited process now. And finally, with an enhanced reputation with someone to work with and for. For us, the alliance contracting model has had the highest flexibility with the greatest contingent liability, and therefore it's been a real success so far. And I'm looking forward to the next 10 plus years of our process as we go through our partnership. I'm going to hand back now to Krisha to help facilitate questions. Thank you.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Phil, Kerry and Patrick, for taking us through that content and for actually just not holding back and sugarcoating things, because as a member of the Alliance, I know it hasn't always been easy. So appreciate kind of the honest reflections on your experiences to date. So thank you so much. So hey everyone, we will now be entering into our Q&A session. So just a reminder to please pop your questions into the Q&A function, and just note that, you know, it is a very rare occasion that we've got these three wonderful speakers here together at the same time. So I encourage you to actually ask those burning questions that you might have. And yeah, while you're kind of thinking those through, I might perhaps kick off with some of the questions that I received in advance of the session, as well as those ones that came through the Q&A session, the function. So to the speakers, I will read out a question and direct them to, I guess, the most appropriate speakers. So be ready. I'll throw the top questions at you guys. So Phil, maybe I'll direct the first one to you if I can. So how has the Alliance developed its own culture to integrate DEI, EY and Becca as an entity?
Oh, great. Yeah, that's really important because right at the start, we're trying to create an entity that has come together. So like any good organisation, we've started with a project charter and a charter that sets out our purpose, and that's embodied within the Alliance agreement and was agreed through co-design right up before we entered into the actual contract phase. In essence, it embodies what everyone's being involved in and sets out signposts and directions as to what we're going to do, our participant objectives, outlines our key core values, and sets us in a way that enables us to build up key result areas and KPIs from that. So it's been a real foundation document. And we've supported that through climate surveys in terms of understanding about what people think about the culture of the Alliance right now. Kerry mentioned about embodying teams, mixing teams up. We've also brought on an Alliance coach, really crucial for an Alliance management team to get the best practice embedded within the way that we operate. And we're focused on maturity activities, so things that actually help us take our organisation a lot forward, and that's even including looking at our operating model as we move forward with an Alliance construct.
Awesome, thanks Phil, that was a great response. So a few more questions coming through and a couple of themes as well. So Patrick, if I can throw this one at you. So what would you think are some of the challenges currently faced with implementing an Alliance model, and what are some of your favourite things about an Alliance as well?
Yeah, great question, Krisha. Look, Phil talked about setting the new culture, and that can be difficult, especially when you're bringing the different participants together, and they can have their own quite different and unique cultures. So just bringing all that together to form that one culture, and that can be quite a different approach, and so that takes quite a bit of work to get that going. It's probably also the sort of change in the relationships between the participants. You know, I think I referred earlier about really removing the barriers, and people can be quite used to having that in a traditional contract as sort of the client consultant relationship, and this is now changing it to be peers. So that can be kind of quite a change and take some getting used to. As part of that, one of the principles is about having those sort of honest conversations. Honest conversations are difficult almost no matter who you're doing with them or what contract model or in any walk of life. So that probably takes a bit of getting used to as well, to people having those honest conversations and giving that constructive feedback. Like you'll have different systems that people are used to working with, so bringing that all to one can be a challenge. Look, I think we've touched on it already. COVID has obviously added a hell of a lot more added challenges to us in the last year. Alliance particularly are traditionally co-located, and so we've sort of had people all over the place. So lots of Teams meetings and Zoom meetings and whatnot. One of my favorite things about Alliance, like I'm unashamedly say I love Alliances. I think they're absolutely great and get such great outcomes. My favorite things is, to be honest, it's the brilliant people you get to work with. We talked about, they're about high performance and the best people. There's just been able to work up that close with people and just observe and learn from them is amazing. The fact that you're encouraged to be innovative in what you do, which for me is great. It's the sort of stuff you don't like doing or you don't think is the right way to do stuff. There's always that opportunity to change it. Just because you're always aiming for those game-breaking outcomes, so it's quite a dynamic atmosphere to work in, and that can really motivate people, and it's just the opportunities as well it gives to people, and no matter what your role or rank in the alliance, in an alliance, there's always that opportunity for career growth. So yeah, so many good things.
Thanks, Patrick. Definitely echo those comments. I mean, for me personally as well, meeting different people and working alongside them has been my highlight as well. So nice one. Kerry, if I can come to you now to have a bit of a conversation. So question has popped up that kind of looks ideal for you. So I'll throw this one at you. So Kerry, the Alliance is relatively new. How do you see it changing, maturing and evolving over the next few years?
Wow, okay.
The best one for you.
Yeah, great question. So obviously, we are 12 months into this Alliance. So what has been set up at the beginning of it, obviously still in the infancy, and so we are maturing as we go. As I've mentioned in my slides, having resets, acknowledging and allowing lessons learned is really important. We've already diarised, as I mentioned, the reset for next year to take lessons learned and capitalise on them. And just in the last 2 weeks, the Alliance Board and the management team have also had a reflection session with the Alliance coach. So again, looking at ways that we can make changes and commit to putting these into action. So that's really important, that it's not lip service and that we are making change. So where will we be in 2 years, 3 years time? We're already actually behaving pretty well together as a group. When you've got Patrick and Phil on the team, it always makes for a good laugh, which is really important, that everybody's enjoying themselves, and we are, but we also know when we need to call each other out on different things. So I just see it getting better. We are an oiled machine. I think in the next few years, we're going to become a very well-oiled machine. Defence and DEI will be starting to reap the benefits of projects that have gone into construction, and that'll be a big great thing to see these projects really, getting built, and the different processes and strategic guidelines that we've written really put into practice and are seamless. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Nice, very nice, Kerry. Thank you for that. One more question for you, maybe, Phil. Just conscious of time, so maybe we'll go through a couple more questions and then we'll try to bring the session to a close. So, Phil, what capabilities and competence does New Zealand Defence Force need to be an effective, intelligent client?
Yes, that's the thing we asked ourselves right at the very start of walking into an alliance, about making sure that we were going to get the most out of a long-term partnership with industry. And we did a lot of work right in before we entered into the concept of a co-design of an alliance, to understand what it was that we needed to be internally to structure ourselves to be that. So having to set yourself up for a start was really important. and thinking about what you wanted to be, get out of the relationship and what was actually achievable. So we spent a lot of time. It was almost a very slow dance, and I think it was a little bit frustrating for all of industry to see DEI change through that process. At the same time, though, industry also became an intelligent partner in terms of what they wanted to do, understand what it was that was to work with us as well. So us being an intelligent client, we also wanted an intelligent partner, and we've brought together the best of, as Patrick identified, public and private sector experience in vertical and horizontal infrastructure to actually deliver the significant amount of investment we're expecting over the next years.
Awesome, thanks for that response, Phil. So maybe one last question, but I'll ask all speakers to give their responses to this one. So maybe a minute for your responses. So what is one thing you now know that you wished you had known before joining the Alliance? Anyone wants to go first? Yeah, please. Thanks, Kerry.
Respecting hierarchy, I think, particularly within the single services. So understanding that is something that I didn't have a very good vision of before I came into the Alliance. And I think that is important, especially, you know, they are very, very key stakeholders in everything that we do, and will be users of assets. So it's very, very key that we have their involvement, and they are standing alongside us, working with us. So that's what I've taken out of it.
Thanks, Kerry. Patrick, would you like to go next?
Yeah, absolutely. So look, I guess, you know, if you look at the DI Alliance, it's a portfolio alliance. So it's effectively the whole of defence, estate and infrastructure are in this alliance. And that's probably quite different, I think, to previous alliances, and you know, and so it is different. The principles are the same, but it's a sort of different how you approach it. And I think that's probably the key learning I've had from the last year, of you know, you can't just come at it with the mindset of this is how previous alliances have worked and succeeded. They're sort of to make a successful portfolio alliance is take something a bit different. So I think that'll be the key learning.
Yeah, I get to say the last. So to the extent my view was that we've morphed and changed from our view of where we were. It is a changing process, and you've got to be flexible and agile through it. So you can't just walk in and expect that the agreement that you signed up at the start is actually going to be what you want to put in place as you go through. So having that agility and support from your own organisation as you go through has been really crucial, and taking all of those people with you along the way. So I think you know, expecting that things will change, and they do change. So to take a little example of our alliance management team, since we've established alliance management team, Patrick and Jared Lesher are the only two, and myself are the only two original members on the alliance management team. We've morphed and changed the process to ensure that we are making sure that we get the right people in the decision-making seats that as we go forward. So we've made sure that we've been agile to the response of what we're required to deliver as an alliance.
Awesome. Thanks all for your responses. That was great to hear. I feel like we've had some great questions come through and some excellent responses from the speakers as well. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. Apologies if we couldn't get to your question today, but like I said, it seems like alliances is becoming more and more popular. So maybe we'll look to do another webinar in the new year if this is of interest to everybody. But for now, maybe I'll just, you know, on behalf of WIN, New Zealand Defence Force, EY and Becca, just, you know, like to thank you all for coming along and getting involved today. We appreciate the time you've taken to learn a little bit more about alliances and this delivery model. I hope you can take some learnings away with you. A special thank you to our speakers, Kerry, Phil and Patrick. Thanks so much for all your efforts and for making the time today. And please note that the recording of this session, including the presentation, will be circulated shortly, and a request to you know, complete a post-event survey will also be sent around. So it won't take you long. Take a minute to complete this survey for us. We're interested in hearing your views. This will help us kind of shape the future events we bring to you. So yeah, that'll be much appreciated. And yeah, I think this is our final event for the year. So I guess on behalf of myself and the WIN committee, a huge thank you to everyone for coming along and joining all our events this year. I know it's been a long and complicated year, so appreciate everyone getting involved. And I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas and enjoy the festive season. And I look forward to connecting with you all in the new year. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.